Hey, so study with me series. It means this 1 hour we'll try to cover the entire lesson in a more brief manner. All topics of NCERT and any other uh, topics extra will be also touched. Okay. So especially this need preparation, right? So we need to recollect as much as we can. Right? We have to recollect how much ever we can really recollect, and the recollection is key because all these 2 years you already been studying these chapters. But when you attend any sort of question, any type of question, you need to be able to recollect the concept, and not only recollecting, you have to recollect the concept a very clear manner, at the same time correct manner. Then only you can answer the question answers in detail. For that matter, any competitive exam, right? So consider that these videos are kind of a study with me series that we all sit together and we study. And if I were you, I will how I will read a particular, how I will recollect. So let's see this entire chapter. How can we discuss? So let others join, and we can move forward. Okay. So regarding this outline of this chapter and important and highlights of this chapter was covered in morning session 9:50 to 10:50. So you can view those videos also. Okay. Yeah. Good afternoon. Hi. Okay. Please do join. So we'll start within a minute and then we can move ahead. So you may find these videos very useful, extremely useful for quickly recap, for quickly recollecting everything and revising, you know, concept by concept at the same time. What are the different topics and subtopics are covered in NCERT? It will be very much useful for NCERT. I mean, whoever preparing for NEET, whatever board is, either metric or CBS. Okay. So let's move on. See this biological classification, right? This biological classification of plants and animals was first actually proposed by Aristotle. Aristotle. And if you see the on what basis actually this Aristotle proposed biological classification would be, you know, very few characteristics. Simple morphological characteristics. Later on, then Linnaeus came and classified organisms in the form of two kingdoms, plant and animalia. So all who are sedentary beings kept in plant, and who are all can move from one place to other place, kept in animalia. So there was some discrepancy, and there was no much clear cut classification at that point of view, two kingdom classification as well. But if you see that later on the characteristics that we need to consider to really classify an organism. So for that matter, why do we really classify organisms? So if we can classify organism, we can better study them, right? So maybe a old species, right, or which is already identified, or a new species needs to be identified, we can really arrange in a particular category very easily, and it will be very easy to study them in a later part. So scientific studies would be very much easy if they are identified and if they are placed in proper classification, right? Then Whittaker, so W.H. Whittaker proposed this kind of elaborative five kingdoms of classification, where we talked about monorems, protists, right? Protista, fungi, plant, and animal. So, if you see this criteria of this five kingdom classification, were cell structure, body organization, mode of nutrition, reproduction, and phylogenetic relationship. So, how we are back in time connected to our ancestors. So, these are all comes, or considered characteristics in five kingdom classification. So, in this biological classification, not only five kingdom classification, we are also talking about different types of classification existed previously, like Aristotle classification based on the two kingdom classification, the Linnaeus, Carl Linnaeus, at the same time five kingdom classification. So if you go to much details, like we can actually classify these organisms into three different types of classifications, right? So in morning session also I explained, right, three different types of classification. One is artificial, second is natural, and third is cladistic. So artificial or prior classification considers only few characteristics. That's what I used the analogy of arrangement of books in the shelf, right? We can arrange books just based upon our interest. Like I like these books, so this is a very vague sort of classification, right? I like books means in that book maybe a math book can be there, psychology book can be there, or physics book can be there, or bio book can be there, or any comic book. So there is no particular more characteristics are not considered when I say I like these books. I like these books. This is a category. I don't like this book. This is a category. Right. So that comes in an artificial or prior classification. Considers only few key features. That's it. Later comes a natural or phonetic classification. This classification of organisms, right, is on basis of their permanent vegetative characteristics. So based upon their vegetative characteristics, right, to avoid much confusions, right, based upon this vegetative characteristics, this phonetic or natural classification is used. And then the third one is cladistic or phylogenetic. So phylogenetic classification is something which we use cladistics. This cladistics is nothing but a method of classification of organisms based upon the genetic, right? Genetic and ancestral relationship. So species A, species B is there, right? Or a type of organism is there. How much it is related to this? What is the relation between these two? Whether they have common ancestor or not. Likewise, they will be classified. So this cladistic or phylogenetic classification follows cladistic methods of cladistic, CLADISTICS, cladistics, right? Cladistic method of classification in which the genetic and ancestral relationships will be considered. So that is, this phylogenetic classification is more scientific than required, right? Even natural. So the most accepted, five kingdom system of classification of living organisms actually was proposed by R.H. Whittaker. Yeah. Yeah. Hi. So I think you are able to follow. So let's move on. Okay. So if you see the merits and demerits of each classification, right? So we have different types of classification, right? For example, two kingdoms of classification was given by Carl Linnaeus, right? Carolus Linnaeus, animal and plant. So if you see, if you consider the merits of photosynthetic organisms were included in plant kingdom, and non-photosynthetic organisms were included in animal kingdom. So based upon whether they are able to do photosynthesis or not, so all entire organisms were actually classified into two. One is able to do the photosynthesis, and other is not. So what are the demerits? You see the demerits, some organisms actually do not fall under these classifications. So they have only mentioned only which are photosynthetic and non-photosynthetic, right? So some organisms do not fall naturally either into plant or animal kingdom, which they may share both the characteristics as well, right? So that's one of the demerits. And then comes the three kingdom classification, right? So three kingdom classification was given by Ernest Haeckel. So in this Ernest Haeckel's classification, three kingdom classification, he introduced protistan members. Protista unicellular eukaryotes are there, right? Protistan members, Animalia and Plantae. So what are the merits we can see? So merits of this three kingdom classification were this it created a third kingdom which included unicellular eukaryotic organisms and some multicellular organisms within that group. Okay, so what are the demerits of this three kingdom classification which was given by Ernest Haeckel? Right? So demerits are the modirands were not placed in a placed correctly. So modirands were missing in this three kingdoms of classification. And then comes four kingdom of classification. It is co-plant, right? The four kingdom system of classification is given by co-plant, in which Modiran, Protistans, Animalia and Plantae were there, right? What are the merits? Modirands were placed separately along with the other kingdoms. What are the demerits if you consider? Demerits of this four kingdom classification was Modirands were not subdivided into Archaebacteria and Eubacteria. So morning session we already discussed. Within the Modirands we have got separate bacteria. Eubacteria, Archaebacteria we have methanogens and other organisms. And in Eubacteria again we have classification, right? So that was not seen. And then finally comes the six kingdom system of classification, which was given by Carl Lewis, right? In which the Archaebacteria, Eubacteria, Protista, Fungi, Animalia, Plantae. So six kingdoms were kept in this type of classification, which was given by Carl Lewis. So what are the merits? Archaebacteria and Eubacteria were separately placed, right? So within the Modirands, right? If you see the five kingdom classification, within the Modirands we have Archaebacteria and Eubacteria. But when six kingdom classification, which is given by Carl Lewis, where he separately included this Archaebacteria, Eubacteria into separate kingdoms. So that's making six kingdom classification. But as of now, the widely the entire scientific community and entire taxonomists were more comfortable and more acceptable classification, and now what we follow is five kingdom classification that was given by W.H. Whittaker. So I hope I'm clear, right? So this is just this is a brief discussion on what are the different types of classification we can see, right? We talked about one Aristotle's type of classification based upon morphology. We talked about two kingdom classification. We talked about three kingdom classification. We talked about four kingdom, and then we talked about six kingdom classification as well, right? So, and then finally, which classification we are following? That is five kingdom classification. Right? So W.H. Whittaker, which was given by W.H. Whittaker. So when we see this, when we go in depth in this five kingdom classification, then we will be studying about each kingdom. So if you consider the Modirands, so Modirands, on what basis they were, what are the different characteristics of a Modirand? On by and large, like it's like on overall, what are the different characteristics of kingdom Monira, or what type of organisms we can place in the Monira? Like what are Modirands actually? So these Modirands includes, they are prokaryotic and unicellular organisms, and they include bacteria, archaebacteria, mycoplasmas, actinomycetes, cyanobacteria, and rickettsia. So these are the different types of microorganisms or organisms you will be seeing in this kingdom Monira. Okay. So when we further go for subdivisions or subclassification in this kingdom Monira, we can see that the bacteria, Bacteria again further divided into archaebacteria and eubacteria. So what are bacteria actually? What are the different characteristics or features of this bacteria? So these bacteria are unicellular prokaryotic organisms. Prokaryotic means they didn't have nuclear membrane. They have not developed this nuclear membrane so that the genetic material will be just scattered in the cytoplasm, right? And even they contain cell wall, right? Which actually the cell wall feature is present in animals, but even this glycocalyx and other cell wall components will be present in the bacteria, right? And if you see this bacteria itself, like it will have a different, what is a different structures at the same time, almost 4,000 varieties, right? Almost 4,000 species you can find it in bacteria, right? So bacteria can be regarded both friends and foes. We already discussed microbes in human welfare and human health and disease. Human health and disease, we consider microorganisms as foe. In microbes in human welfare, we will consider bacteria as friends. It means they actually, helps in converting raw materials into usable products, that products which human really depend upon. So that's all the bacteria characteristics, right? And if you see almost like what is the composition of bacteria on human, right? uh, what exactly, how much, if you consider the weight of the bacteria on the human, it's almost 1 to 1.5 or 1 to 2 kg of bacteria can be found in human body with an average human weight of 70 kg. So if you see this bacteria present everywhere at the same time, they will be present even in the microflora, gut microflora, microenvironment, right? So if you see this bacteria, again they can be divided into archibacteria, which is primitive bacteria, and eubacteria, which are true bacteria. So this archibacteria, which are primitive bacteria, archibacteria, primitive bacteria, can be divided into methanogens, halophiles, and acidophiles. It means the methanogens will produce in very harsh methane producing bacteria. At the same time, halophiles, they live in highly saline or marine habitats, and then thermoacidophiles lives in presence in acidic sulfur springs, right? So at the same time, hot, very much high temperature regions. And then when it comes to eubacteria, which are true bacteria, they can be divided into different types of bacteria based upon their presence of cell wall, or presence of on the basis of staining behavior. So the staining is based upon the peptidoglycan, and based upon that we can divide this eubacteria into gram positive and gram negative, right? And then basis of the structure of the shape. So if it is round, it is cocci. If it is rod like, it is bacilli. If it is spiral like, it is spirillum. If it is comma shape, they are vibrio. So these are the four different types of bacteria you can find based upon the structure and shape. If you see this within the four types, the coccus doesn't have any motile structures, so they are non-motile. So the remaining three, those are vibrio and spirillum, and at the same time bacillus, rod shape. These are all motile in structure. And then finally, the other one is based upon the nutrition. So how do we do this nutrition? Nutrition is something, based upon whether they are autotrophic or heterotrophic. We can actually separate this bacteria. So these autotrophics are nothing but photosynthetic or purple surface bacteria. It means autotrophics might be of two kinds. One is photosynthetic autotrophs or chemosynthetic autotrophs, by using chemicals as an carbon source, right? So that is one way they can actually prepare their own. Or heterotrophic organisms, or monoreps, or bacteria, or saprophytic, or symbiotic, or parasitic. So they depend upon other organisms for the food source. So likewise, this each and every subdivision of this bacteria would contain different characteristics. Is that clear? So if you see this archibacteria, they have cell walls which are made up of a protein and non-cellulosic polysaccharides. So the polysaccharides are non-cellulosic. Okay, so other than cellulose content, the layers will be made up of protein and non-cellulosic polysaccharides. Right. So this is one of the important feature of the bacteria. Right. And archibacteria, if you see the other features, like it can live under extreme hostile conditions like high salts, right? High salt, hot sulfur springs, right? So they can live in extreme weather, so extreme climatic conditions. And if you consider that they are also known as living fossils because they represent the earliest form of life on the earth. Because we know in evolution we studied what are the primitive conditions of earth, and they are pretty much very harsh environment in that point of time. But still, you see these archibacteria at that point of time. So living fossils examples is archibacteria. While we are discussing the evidences for evolution, also we discussed classification. In that classification we talked about this living fossils. This is archibacteria is one of the examples. So how we can use this archibacteria? Archibacteria can be used for experimentation for absorption of solar radiation, at the same time production of gobar gas, methanogens, etc. And we have fermentation of cellulose in ruminants. Also we can use this archibacteria. And then comes the eubacteria, has got otherwise called as true bacteria, which lack nucleus and nuclear membrane bound or membrane bound cell organelles like mitochondria, chloroplast. In place of mitochondria, there we have lysosomes, which actually generate some energy for the cell. So eubacteria are usually divided into again subphylums, that is spirochetes, chlamydiaceae, and you have gram-positive bacteria, cyanobacteria, proteobacteria. So these are all the different subdivisions of the five subphylums of five phylums of this eubacteria, right? So when we talk about the bacterial nutrition, so we have got different types of nutrition and examples. So if you see this, few bacteria are photosynthetic bacteria, right? Photosynthetic bacteria, where exactly they live, right? Their habitats that you need to focus on. At the same time, there are some of these bacteria, eubacteria, are heterotrophic bacteria as well, right? For example, spirochetes, if you consider, they are heterotrophic bacteria, which lives in aquatic habitats, or they are present as parasites on animals and plants. And usually, if you see the cell wall type, they are gram negative. If you consider examples, the representatives of this, spirochetes, you have got spirocheta is one example. And within this heterotrophic bacteria, you can get different bacteria as an example, like Pseudomonas, Listeria, right? Nitrobacter, Agiobacter. So these are all bacteria which comes under this heterotrophic bacteria. Okay. Okay, let's move to the next aspect. Right. So when we consider this, I hope you guys are following. So when you consider this, the other characteristics of this bacteria, we can consider characteristics like reproduction in bacteria, at the same time respiration in bacteria also. So if you consider the reproduction can be of asexual mode or sexual mode. Okay. So in the asexual mode, right from your lower standards, we are studying that we have asexual mode of reproduction in bacteria, that fission, budding, and we have spore formation as well. In sexual modes, we have transformation, transduction, and conjugation. So if you remember that when we talk about structure of the bacteria, we talk about the appendages of the bacteria. So along with the either Ceria or Flagella or sexpili, so which are minor tube-like structures which actually attach to one cell to other cells and they exchange the material, right? Genetic material. This makes the conjugation, right? So these are the modes of sexual reproduction in the case of first classification, that is bacteria, that means monirans. So monirans have extremely economic importance also. They will be widely discussed in microbes in human welfare as well. So when it comes to mycoplasmas, their mycoplasmas are all actually parasitic in nature, right? And here these mycoplasmas are otherwise called as PPLOs. This PPLO term is very important. Pleuropneumonia-like organisms, which are minute organisms and smallest living cells, right? Where they can survive without oxygen, right? And they measure typically about 0.1 micrometers in diameter. So that's what this makes this parasitic in nature and pathogenic in nature. Not all bacteria are pathogenic, few are beneficial also, which are non-pathogenic also. But especially these mycoplasmas are completely pathogenic. So other monirans we discuss, we have got cyanobacteria, blue green algae, actinomycetes, right, which forms a mycelium. You know how this actinomycetes and even cyanobacteria, blue green algae are very essential for biofertilizers, etc. We already studied in microbes in human welfare, and they fix the atmospheric nitrogen, molecular nitrogen into the more usable forms of nitrites and nitrates. So this is about the kingdom Monera, and then let's move to the next aspect, that is Protista. So what are the different? Now what you can do is you can pause this video, right, and then you can go back. Once this live is done, whoever watching it as a recorded one, so you can pause here and you can go back to your Monera, whatever books you have, NCERT textbook and other state board or any other neat books. Like you try to make a notes and try to read the outline and then come back to the next kingdom and do some questions regarding this each kingdom, and then it will be very useful, and you can easily uh, you know get the essence of these topics. Otherwise, if you think that okay, we will complete this entire lesson then we will practice, means it will be huge hectic for you, because you will get a lot of names and characteristics. So without getting confusion, kingdom by kingdom, you try to practice the questions as well. Okay, so next comes to the Protista. So Protista kingdom, Protista, if we talk about just like Monera, we will be talking about different characteristics, features, etc. So what sort of organisms will be placed in this Protista? They are unicellular eukaryotic organisms. First we talked about unicellular prokaryotes, where they lack the nuclear membrane, nucleus membrane, bound cell organelles, etc. And free living, symbiotic, whatever. And then now we are talking about eukaryotic unicellular organisms. So these protistan members can actually divide into plant-like protista, fungi-like protista, and then animal-like protistan members. So we take examples of this protistans which are like plant-like. It means they are photosynthetic in nature. We have pyrophyta, no, chrysophyta or chrysophyta or euglenophyta. So phyta, that's what we can see this phyta, plant, right? Plant, phyton. So plant body, like that we can get related to the the terminology also. Pyro, chrysophyta and then euglenophyta. So something is protists, unicellular protists, which are sub classified or subphylums within this protistan kingdom. We can get as these three subphylums in plant-like protists. They are examples: dinoflagellates, diatomaceous as diatoms, and then you will find euglenoids, right? So if you see these diatoms, like once after their death, right, they reach to the sea bottom and they become diatomaceous earth. So this is something which is important, right? And then fungi like protists or slime molds. We'll use some examples of slime molds. For example, you have acellular slime modes we have, or cellular slime modes we have. That is mycota. So mycota, right? At the same time, cellular slime modes also present in this, fungi-like protists. And then comes the animal-like protists, or they are called protozoans. So we are much familiar with these, animal-like protists. So they are amoeboid protozoans, we have flagellated protozoans, and we have sporozoans, we have ciliated protozoans. So likewise, we can actually um, uh, divide or subphylums in the animal-like protists. I hope you guys are following. Okay, this chapter is second chapter, 11th standard. It's biological classification. 11th standard students also can make use of it. Okay, and need preparation, especially this is for need preparation. Study with me series that you can revise along with me, right? Yeah, so you can pause the video at any point of time and you can come back also after the live, right? So let's move on. So when we really consider, this kingdom Protista, in the view of evolution, the kingdom Protista actually acts as a connecting link between prokaryotic kingdom, that is Monera, and multicellular kingdoms like fungi, plantae, and animalia, because this is unicellular eukaryotic members, right? So monerians are something which are unicellular prokaryotic members, and fungi are multicellular eukaryotic, and then you have plantae multicellular eukaryotic. These are all eukaryotic cells. But when it comes to Protista, they are actually acting as an connecting link between prokaryotic kingdom Monera and then multicellular kingdoms like fungi, plantae, and animal. So the first this Protista was actually coined, or was given, the term was given or introduced by a German biologist Ernest Haeckel, right? This Ernest Haeckel, that's what when we discussed about, three kingdom classification, four kingdom classification, two kingdom classification, we talked about Ernest Haeckel, where he introduced Protistan members, right? In this Protistan, they have common characteristics like these all unicellular eukaryotic protistan members are mostly of aquatic in nature, and this eukaryotic cell of protist possess well-defined nucleus, of course, and then we have membrane-bound cell organelles also will be present, and then these protistans will produce both asexually, at the same time sexual mode of reproduction would be observed, and zygote formation would be observed. And they have been having a nutrition that is autotrophic as well as heterotrophic. So these are the common characteristics. When you're preparing for a NEET exam, right, you may be asked correct or incorrect statements in this. So in morning session, I didn't cover, I didn't talk in depth, right? So briefly, I'm now discussing each phylum. Where morning session, I have given only the outline. So that's what I told. From video to video, content would vary, but concepts remain the same. So here now we will be talking about the plant-like protists, right? When we talk about dinoflagellates. So those are they belongs to the subphylum or division, right? Pyrophyta and class Dinophyceae. So these terms or these classifications are important, taxonomical names and all. So what are the characteristics you see within this Pyrophyta members? Those are unicellular, they are motile and biflagellate. So they will be having biflagellates, right? Two flagellus. At the same time, if you see the color, right, they are golden brown colored protists. So they form important components of phytoplankton. So you would have remember the ecosystem lesson, right? In ecosystem, we talked about the aquatic ecosystem because we are talking about protistans, which has which we commonly see this. We can commonly see these protists, right, in aquatic habitat. So it is something which is connected with the aquatic ecosystem. Those are nothing but phytoplanktons. And I already told that this dinoflagellates comes under plant-like protists. So the production of the traffic of sunlight and the production, the primary producers, the GPP, NPP that we have discussed in ecosystem can be really linked with this dinoflagellates. So they comes under this phytoplanktons, which are important components of the phytoplanktons because they are able to they are able to do the photosynthesis. So if you see this during cell division interphase, what they will do is what they will form their macronucleus possess condensed form of chromosomes. Those are called as mesokaryon. So this term mesokaryon is important, and this is specifically seen in this dinoflagellates. And sometimes they even what do you say? They display this bioluminescence also, right? The phenomenon of they exhibit the phenomenon of bioluminescence. It means glowing, right? They glow. The biological organisms which glow, right? They are called as bioluminescence. That phenomenon. So they exhibit this sort of bioluminescence as well. So next, coming to the prosophytes, where we talk about diatoms, right? And diatoms are actually a good pollution indicators, like lichens that we study at the end of the discussion. So lichens are not placed viruses, viroids, and lichens are not placed in 5-kingdom classification. They are separately placed, right? So these lichens, just like lichens, these diatoms are also a good pollution indicators actually. Right, so these diatoms do not decay easily, as their body is actually covered by, what is it? Siliceous cell, right? So it is which in which after their death, right? So they actually come under the bottom of the water body, and they form a diatomaceous earth because the shells would be very hard, so they become diatomaceous earth, and which can be used as fuel after mining. So the later one is we talking about euglenoids, right? So euglenoids is the third subphylum present in this photosynthetic type of protists, right? So these euglenoids are when I talk about this euglenoids, right? Uh, they are unicellular flagellates, and mostly they are present in stagnant fresh waters. So instead of a cell wall, they have a protein-rich layer called pellicle. So these are the important characteristics of the euglenoid. So here we are talking about a cell layer, a protein-rich layer which is covering these euglenoids, that is pellicle. Right. So you need to remember these terms for sure. Right, and they will be having two types of flagella. One is long whiplash like a flagella, and the other one is short, tinsel like flagella, right? So if you say this euglenoids, right? So they prepare their food, right? So they actually store the food in the form of proteinaceous granules called pyrenoids. So these are the important terms you need to remember. And then we have got second type of classification within this. We have seen protists. Those are slime moths. So the slime moths are two types: acellular or cellular slime moths. So acellular slime moths includes this, Fusarium, and then you have got cellular slime moths like Dictyostelium. So Fusarium and Dictyostelium, these examples you need to remember: acellular slime moths and cellular slime moths. So what exactly these characteristics? So this fungi-like protist contains the characteristics of both animals and fungi. So that's what they placed in this fungi, like slime moth characteristics. It means they display saprophytic food habit, and even they consume organic matter. So that's what we commonly call it as fungus animals, protists. Right? So animal-like protists, we have the last aspect in this protist, animal-like protists. So animal-like protists, if you see, we have amoeboid protozoans and flagellated protozoans, ciliated protozoans, and sporozoans. So sporozoans we are very much familiar with, which actually plasmodium. We have talked about plasmodium and its life cycle also we are very much known about it. And ciliated protozoans, if you see, we have we know organism unicellular eukaryotic protist members like you have paramecium, which is simple animalcule and mostly of an aquatic habitat, and they will be having micro nucleus and macronucleus as well. And finally, we talk about flagellated protozoans, where these are either these flagellated protozoans can be of free living or parasitic in nature. So if you see that Trypanomonas Trypanosoma species, right? If you talk about the members of this flagellated protozoans, which are parasitic in nature, Trypanosoma, right? This causes African sleeping sickness, right? Or leishmaniasis, right? And we have got these are the different examples we can pick in flagellated protozoans, right? So these are the four types of animal-like protozoans you can see. One is amoeboid, and flagellated, and ciliated, and sporozoans. And then now comes to the last, the third kingdom, that is fungi. But when we talk about plantain kingdom, animalia, we will not much talk in this lesson. We will separately deal brief discussion. Two videos will be released. That is a brief discussion. Study with me series, that is a brief discussion on plant kingdom and animal kingdom. Two separate videos will be released just like this. So we will be stopping this video with kingdom, fungi, and the other organisms like viruses, viroids, and lichens. So when we talk about this fungi, right? Fungi, what are the different characteristics of fungi? We already talked. The protists are actually connecting between prokaryotes and multicellular eukaryotes. So these are all eukaryotic organisms, heterotrophic in nature, right? What are the basic features that this fungi displays? So this fungi lack chlorophyll, so hence obviously they should be heterotrophic in nature, and they cannot even ingest solid food, but they can absorb it after digestion. So the digestive enzymes are actually secreted on the food, right? And then finally they absorb this food in a simpler form. And then when we talk about on basis of food sources, they can be of dependent upon the food sources. They can be of saprophytic in nature or parasitic in nature. At the same time, when we talk about cell wall in the fungus is made up of nitrogen-containing polysaccharides. So chitin or chitin. So this chitinous cell walls will be present in the fungi. So you have to remember in which organism out of this kingdom, which cell wall is made up of cellulosic, which cell wall is made up of non-cellulosic, proteinaceous layer, and which is made up of chitinous or nitrogen-containing polysaccharide, right? Chitin. So these are the important aspects that you may lose, you may overlook, but these are all very important when it comes to need objective type of questions. So even the reserved food materials from each kingdom also you need to remember. Here the reserved food materials are glycogen or oil. So this you see this exception of when we talk about this fungi, they act as decomposers as well, which acts on the organic matter. So but we have the exception of yeast. Yeast or something unicellular fungi and filamentous. Right? This fungal bodies consists of a long, slender, thread-like structures called hyphae as well. So, based upon the hyphae or mycelium, it forms whether they are nucleated or enucleated or multinucleated, whether they have septa or not, they are non-septate. It means whether the cells or these filaments are actually partitioned or non-partitioned. We can actually separate this fungi into different classification. When we talk about the classification, we have Myxomycetes and Eumycetes. So this Myxomycetes members, which contains body as amoeboid naked protoplasm. And when we talk about Eumycetes, they are unicellular or multicellular filamentous organisms. So within the eumystis, you have Phycomystis, Ascomystis, and Deuteromystis and Bestiomystis. Right. So when we talk about this, each and every aspect of this subclassification within the fungi, you need to remember that whether they are whether they are nucleated or multinucleated or enucleated, whether they are mycelia septate or aseptate, whether they are aquatic habitat or whether they are free living, whether they are actually living in which system, what type of reproduction they are displaying. For example, if you consider Phycomystis, these are the members found in aquatic habitats. Likewise, from one group to other group, you need to consider these important aspects. Okay. So when we talk about this fungi, right? So fungi, if you talk about this fungi, so you have got separate different classification within this, right? So, I hope you guys are following. So the mode of reproduction is also important. When we talk about mode of reproduction, when we talk about sexual mode of reproduction in the fungi, right? They'll be following three important steps in the sexual cycle. One is plasmogamy, karyogamy, and the zygote undergoes meiosis to form haploid spores. So these are the three important events also you need to once go. So when I talk about Phycomystis, right, these Phycomystis membranes are found in aquatic habitats and they actually grow on dead and decaying wood and moist and damp places, right? And here you find asexual reproduction takes place by zoospores, which are motile in nature, or aplanospores, which are non-motile in nature. So these spores are endogenously produced in a sporangium. So just like within the if you take this reproductive structures, this is sporangium. Within the sporangium, you will find this spore formation. So once these zooforms are formed, right, zygospores are formed by. So how they are formed? Zygospores or zygote? These two spores would be united to form a. Two gametes would be united to form zygospores. And we have examples like albugo or even rhizopus as an example, which rhizopus is a bread mold and albugo is a parasitic fungi. And then ascomystis, right? This asco means like a sac-like structures. This is otherwise called as sac fungi, right? So these are unicellular. These ascomystis are unicellular. For example, yeast Saccharomyces cerevisiae, or multicellular. We have got penicillin. So they are mostly of saprophytic in nature, nutrition, and decomposes or parasitic in nature. So when we talk about the mycelium is septate. There is a partitioning and branched, right? So this is how we have to approach each and every sub division of this fungi. And then asexual spores are formed. Here is a conidia, right? Where in the before classification, sporangium is where those spores are formed, gametes are formed. Here, if you see this, conidia are formed in conidiophores. Okay. And examples of this ascomystis we consider, we have got aspergillus, right? And we have got neurospora. And if you see this, neurospora is a very favorite organism for studying the genetics. We'll be studying different genetic aspects, recombination genetic aspects by using this model of organisms. And then comes the Bestiomystis, right, which is commonly known as Bestiomystis or in this Bestiomystis, we are much aware of this mushrooms, right? And we call it as bracket fungi or puffballs also. So these are the three different types of organisms within this we can see. And if you see the habitat, they grow in soil or logs and tree stumps and living in plant bodies. right? And if you see, they are all living as a parasites. And if you see the structure of mycelium is branched, and it can be actually reproduced by fragmentation, right? So the sexual mode will be actually followed just like plasmogamy and plasmogamy, karyogamy, right? So this karyogamy and meiosis takes place in this basidium, producing 4 bestiospores. So in this bestiomycetes, you will find this bestiospores formation as well by this sexual mode of reproduction. And if you take examples of this bestiomycetes uh, members, you have got Coccinia, right? Agaricus. Agaricus is like mushroom that what we see commonly, right? So agaricus and Coccinia is one of the few of the examples of this Mycoplasma. Then finally, we will be talking about the Deuteromycoptena. This Deuteromycoptena are common, otherwise known as imperfect fungi, right? This Deuteromycetes reproduce only by asexual spores conidia, right? So examples Aspergillus. So these are the classifications. We have got even Alcinaria, Trichoderma as one of the examples of this Deuteromycetes, right? So with this, we completed this classification of Monera, Protista, and fungi. And plant and animalia will be dealt in the next coming two videos. Separate brief discussion will be there on plant kingdom, plant and kingdom, animalia. And coming to the last aspects, that is virus and virions and lichens or lichens, or the organisms which are not placed in this 5 kingdoms of classification, right? They have a separate composition, and these organisms has the mode of reproduction, etc. would be different. So if you see these lichens, they have a composite structure and consists of 2 dissimilar organisms. That's what we can't really place this lichens into one of the classification. One is you'll be having one organism will be depending upon the other organism. So it is a symbiotic association. So algal part and as well as fungal part, that is and microbiome, right? So this algal part of the lichens, which actually provide food for the fungi, and the fungal part, that is microbiome, provides shelter to the algae. So we can't really separate and put this into 5 kingdoms of life. We can't put it in algae, or we cannot put it in fungi. So that's why we separately study this lichens, and these lichens can be used as pollution. We can get whether we can actually see whether how much polluted that area based upon the lichens analysis also, right? And then viruses, we have different types of viruses, and the term virus is actually a poisonous fluid, right? Contagium vivum fluidum, it is one of the term we use here, and here the poisonous fluid is the term actually virus means. These viruses are of different types. We have adenovirus, retrovirus, animal viruses. Again, this adenovirus and retroviruses based upon the DNA content, right? Based upon the nature of genetic material. Adenoviruses contains most of DNA containing virus, and retroviruses contain RNA as a genetic material. At the same time, on the basis of their host, these viruses can actually again separate into animal virus, plant virus, and bacterial viruses or bacteriophages, right? And if you consider the characteristics of living these viruses, they are both living as well as non-living. That's what we cannot really place them. They are even acellular forms actually. They don't have cellular, cell structure, different cell organelles within this cell. So that's what we can't really place these viruses into 5 kingdoms. So the living aspects and non-living aspects and other, for example, non-living characteristics of this virus are like crystallized, and even they don't respire also, they don't have any sort of cell organelles, etc. And in vitro culturing also is not positive. So likewise, when we talk about virions are RNA without a capsid. So if you see viruses, they have protein capsid, but these virions lack this. Virions, which again further we have prions or virions, which doesn't have protein capsids. So with this, we completed this biological classification. I hope you really can utilize this, this video, right? So whoever not attended, like you can share it to your friends, right? So these videos are especially made for the NEET students for your benefit. That the 11th standard portions are quickly needs to recap. So study with me series, study with me 1 hour daily, right? One chapter, 1 hour, and then later we can see the detailed discussion on this chapters as well. I hope you enjoyed this video. Please do subscribe and please like, share, and even comment if you have any sort of feedback. Right? Any other topics you want me to explain, I will be explaining. And please do consider that this is a quarantine situation and health crisis situation. That with the limited resources, I am doing this sort of videos. Once the things get settled, we can improvise, remaining aspects. Right? Thank you for coming on to the live and interacting in the live chat. That is it for today, guys. Tomorrow we'll meet with the kingdom plantae, and then next video will be kingdom animalia. 1 hour brief sessions will be there every day except Thursday and Sunday, 2 to 3 p.m. Thank you, guys. That is it for today, and stay home and stay safe. Thank you.